The story is never over, and we end the story too soon. We just think this is it. This was the only person I'm ever going to love, and that is it. I'm done. Let me just tell you guys, you are never done, and I am a testimony to that. Some of you remember a couple years ago I came and I was actually sharing about small groups, getting involved in D groups, but I shared my testimony at the end of my talk. And I talked about the fact that I had waited and prayed, and even Jim Burns, who was here a couple days ago, I mean, he was praying for my husband. I had people all over the country praying for my husband. I mean, it was sad because it had just, time kept passing, and I got into my 30s, and finally into my 40s, and finally, after so many dating relationships, God brought what I thought was going to be the man for me. He was actually a lawyer and a Marine, a Christian man. He had 2 kids. His wife and he had divorced about 3 years before, and we fell in love, and it was just this great story of redemption and his kids, and all this stuff was happening, and then the Iraq War broke out, and he got deployed. Well, in the course of his deployment, it was 9 months that he was away, and in that time, his ex-wife began to have second thoughts. And I had heard through his family that she was writing him and she was kind of positioning herself back into the family, and clearly she was wanting to reconcile with him. And I can't even tell you, it was just my Isaac. I was like, God, are you kidding me? Are you asking me to let go of this after finally bringing this into my life? After all these years and all these prayers, you're asking me to let go? And God, in the quietness of my heart, was saying, yes, I'm asking you to let go. I know you don't understand. So I did. I opened my hands. And nothing happened because he was in Iraq, but I just was feeling like it was that feeling inside of you when you know things are probably going to end. And sure enough, he came home, and we broke up. And about 6 months later, he remarried his ex-wife. Now, that's a great story when you're not the girl engaged to the guy who remarries his ex-wife. And I just said, God, is this the end for me? I mean, by now I'm in my mid-40s. And I'm going, does anything happen after that? I mean, I'm ready for a cane, And I ended up getting this job in Santa Barbara, and many of you know I went up there, and I remember the guy that called. It was a friend of mine. He's the pastor of this church, John Ireland. And he called me and out of the blue and said, we were praying about this job, and for some reason your name came up, and I was looking for any sign of God, so I went up there. Well, about 4 years later, did some more dating and nothing really, I finally met a guy. And about a year later, when we were on a Haiti mission trip, he got down on his knee in front of the entire mission team and proposed to me. And I will never forget that night. But just so you know the kind of God we have and what he is capable of, I'm going to show you a picture of my husband.